Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Dave Stolaric. I'm one of the principals and founders of Porcaro Stolaric Mate Partners in Chicago. Although I'm broadcasting to you today from the comforts of my home office, where I've been climbing the walls a little bit, as I'm sure some of you are as well. I'll apologize in advance. I'm sure we're all dealing with the same thing. If we hear some domestic noises in the background, my kids or my dog, I apologize in advance. I'm sure you're all in the same boat as I am. Nonetheless, again, today's discussion is brief. We want to honor your calendar and your time and keep it to under 30 minutes. We have a series of webinars that we're going to be producing, and today's discussion is going to be around telecommunications cost. What I thought we would do today is just talk through a little bit about who PSM is very quickly, and then get into really the meat of how you can drive immediate costs from your business through telecommunications. So without further ado, I'll share this deck. Let's get back to the beginning here. So who's PSM? We're a technology consulting firm at our core. We're founded back in 2014. Our office is in Chicago. We have built an incredible portfolio of customers in a short period of time, really centered around the fact that we have an outstanding company culture. Our people love what they do. They service our customers tremendously every day, and we've really seen that come to fruition here during this difficult time. Remote workforce has leveraged some of the technologies to their fullest, and we've had to deploy our team to help our customers get accustomed to this new reality that we're working within. Over the last 5 years, we've grown our business on average 50% year over year, and we've experienced less than 1% customer churn. And I attribute that almost entirely to our culture and the way that our people approach the business every day. And we'll get into that a little bit more. We really offer two core service offerings. We have a technology practice where we have 65 full-time employees. They are dedicated to IT infrastructure and the support of it. We have a team that is focused on managed services, so full outsourced IT. And then we've got a group that's a solutions integration specialist team that really focuses on bigger projects and helping our customers leverage emerging technologies, cloud services, security offerings. And then the other side of the house is our talent practice, where we're helping our clients source the best and brightest people in the marketplace to help augment their team and grow their staff. Within that technology practice, we also act as a telecom broker agent. And you might be asking, what is that? So years ago, really as recent as 5 years ago, 80% of the telecommunications space was dominated by a direct sales force. So the carriers, your providers, were hiring salespeople. They had an average tenure of around a year and a half, so there was constantly a revolving door of support. And there was this emerging aspect of agency. They call it their channel partner program. And we reside within that channel where they allow us to serve as an independent agent. Think of it the same way that an insurance agent goes to market, constantly culling the market for the best rates on your behalf. They're really independent of what provider ultimately services you. They want the best fit for you. We do the same thing with telecommunications, and we transcend various aspects of telecom. So carriers, where they will be providing traditional wireline services like internet, wide area network, or telephony or dial tone. And then data centers, where you may be purchasing rack space and power, cooling, or you're hosting physical equipment there for replication or your core data services. And then we've got a whole portfolio of cloud providers that we represent as well. There's about 50 boutique providers in that space. Think of every as a service offering you can. Desktop as a service, security as a service. If we can't do it natively at PSM, we'll leverage that boutique cloud environment and help bring to bear a service offering that gets you to where you need to be. We're all in the same boat. I'm a business owner. We're looking right now in this incredible environment for ways to drive immediate cost from the business. And we thought it was pertinent today to talk about this telecommunications offering, where we feel it's the lowest hanging fruit in your P&L. There are savings to be had immediately. Most importantly, recognize that 20% on average of telecommunications charges are billed in error. It's a pretty staggering figure when you think about it, and it's not in your favor. And it's really not done out of malice in most instances. It's not nefarious activity on behalf of the carrier. It's due to the fact that they've got legacy infrastructure in place. They've gone through countless merger and acquisition, and they've got improper rates in place. They've got billing systems that don't talk to each other. And over time, as you go through what they call their MACD, or move, add, change, and disconnect process, there are still elements in those bills that are probably not right. They're not rated properly. They're not taxed properly. And you just don't have the time or necessarily the wherewithal to go in and find and dispute those issues. And we do. We've got that expertise. We've got the platforms to do it. And we find very often that there are some skeletons in that closet that date back as far as 5 years, and we've been able to go back and recover costs for our clients that way. That's your money, and it's definitely something that we should be looking at to recover for you. Also, the competitive landscape is changing rapidly in telecom. On a month-over-month basis, I receive offerings from different telecom carriers in our service portfolio that are staggering relative to the pricing landscape. You wouldn't be aware of those unless they were knocking directly on your door, or you were going to seek them out. And those change month over month, and we take advantage of them from a timely standpoint, lock them in for you wherever possible, and help you drive down costs. On average, when we do an audit, we yield around 30%. That's actually a conservative figure, 30% on the low end, where we would find a potential reduction in spend for you or for our clients. We're really good at this. I personally have over 20 years of telecom experience. I've got members of my team that have an equal level of experience working within the telecom carrier world. I made a decision about 7 years ago to leave the carrier space, largely because of the fact that I saw that it really wasn't customer friendly. There weren't a lot of customer advocates. Having been in that industry for 2 decades, I know where all the bodies are hidden, so to speak. I've got great executive level alignment, as does my team. And we know the strengths and weaknesses of the various carriers and service providers, to the extent that when we look at your portfolio and your specific needs for your business, we can very easily match the right service provider and the right offering with what ultimately your goal is and you're trying to achieve. Think of it the other way around. On the carrier side, each one is trying to polish their product to make it shiny enough to attract your attention, but it may not exactly be the best fit for your business. So we're going to reverse engineer that. We're going to start with your needs. We're going to start with your spend and budget, and then we're going to go out and find the best match for that in the marketplace. And we've got a tremendous amount of intellectual property and a library of information, and we're constantly culling these carriers for who's on point, and we put some of them in the penalty box when they're not performing well, and we keep you abreast of who those are and what's going on. I wanted to give you just a few case studies here. The first of which is probably the most common that we see. It's a customer who came to us. They're an auto dealership that wanted a new primary and secondary phone or internet connection. They had just acquired a second location. They had about 150 total users, and they wanted to couple this initiative with bringing in a new phone system. So they had a legacy PBX in place, a bit antiquated. They were spending about $8,000 a month, and they asked us to go out to the market and see what it would bear. And we went out, we did a fiber lookup to find all the different providers that were near to their locations. We very quickly identified some competitive options. We pulled together pricing for them for those connections, both a symmetrical 1 gigabit connection for internet, as well as a cable backup. And we load balanced those two offerings so that they could have full redundancy. And then we went out and ran a short RFP for them to find the best phone service to meet their needs. And you can imagine, as an auto dealership, tons of inbound calls, tons of outbound cold calling and follow-up. They had a lot of different nuanced needs, and we found a perfect fit solution for them. We also did a quick audit of their historical bills, and we found some errors in their bills that we were able to go back and recover 2 years of historical bills that we were able to go back and audit and recover some money for them. And we ultimately reduced their spend by about $3,000 a month. On a little bit larger scale, a couple years ago, we conducted a wide area network audit where this client is primarily functioning as a contact center and fulfillment center for some of the largest brands that we're aware of. And they had 10 locations, two major call centers, one in the Philippines. They had us conduct a wide area network RFP. So they had been on an MPLS network. We brought them over to a more modernized software defined wide area network, or SD-WAN, and in the end saved them a little over $2.2 million through our audit process. We ran the entire process from end to end, from RFP all the way to implementation, managed those vendors accordingly, and drove $2.2 million of savings out of that client's spend portfolio. And they were literally weeks away from signing another renewal with their carrier. Now, they had been with that carrier for 10 years, so they fell into a sense of complacency and, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But in reality, there was tremendous savings there to be had, and their incumbent wasn't willing to meet them at the table to do that. And we brought a solution to bear that helped them drive significant savings to the business. Most recently, and this just happened over the last 30 days, and I've been intimately involved in this one, we helped a large law firm who, again, their incumbent, they had 3 different data centers that they were in with a particular data center provider, 1 in Ohio, 2 in Texas. They acquired another law firm, and they were making a move to consolidate that data center footprint. They still had some contractual obligations to their existing provider. And that provider said, look, it's just going to be easier if you utilize our new Texas data center. We'll consolidate all of those locations. You've still got some contractual requirements with us, and it's going to cost you a lot of penalties if you try to leave. So we're just going to package this all up into a new 5-year term renewal. And the client was moments away from signing when they asked us to go ahead and take a quick look at it. In fact, he just said, look at my contract, look at the pricing, let me know if something looks out of line. Immediately, we identified that there was some overage there. After further forensic analysis, we found some real deficiencies from a solution standpoint. Roll forward about 4 weeks. We ran an RFP process for the client. Since they have to consolidate data centers anyway, there's a physical move required, so they have to do something. And we found a competitive offering that now, over the same 5-year term, is saving them around $600,000. Not to mention, they moved into a data center with the leader in terms of net promoter score in that space. So they're going from middle of the road, high priced, to state of the art facility and saving tremendous amounts of money during a time where these dollars equate to jobs being saved during this pandemic. How we do it. So it's pretty simple. An engagement with us would look like we sign an NDA with you, and then we go to work. We don't want to flex your team, especially now when you're probably working on a short staff. We simply gather from you your spend portfolio. That might be in the form of physical copies of your telecom invoices. We look at your contracts for you. We look for opportunities within your contract to leverage terms, especially in today's state, that might allow you to even take a look at things that are under longer term contract obligation. We get those invoices into our system, and then we start to do a forensic analysis against the market and see what is competitive and what isn't. And we come back to you with an inventory list of where we think that savings can be had, and then we build into this a timeline and execution strategy so that we're out there in the market doing all this for you. We don't want to, again, bring resources away from your team to have to do this. Once we get those invoices and that contract, we're doing all the work behind the scenes. Come back to you with a written summary, and then we'll even go and negotiate the new deals on your behalf and with you. Ultimately, you sign the contract and you still have a direct relationship with the service provider. We are not a telecom carrier. We are a liaison to you to make sure that you're getting the best possible options and deal for your organization. On a go-forward basis, though, we serve as a layer of contact to you. Even though your contract is direct with the provider, they leverage us as an executive escalation point. So where you would otherwise maybe have to call into the network operating center or go through IVR hell to get to somebody live on the phone, you can call PSM. We immediately open tickets on your behalf. We work with the carriers to help make sure that you're getting the attention that you need. And you're skipping several lower levels of engagement and getting to executive alignment very quickly. We're not the typical agent, and this is, I think, a very important leave behind. There are agents that are out there brokering deals like PSM, but at their core, they're not technology specialists. We understand the complete inner workings of IT infrastructure. When we go out to the market and we select telecom providers on your behalf, we're immediately thinking, how is this going to impact the larger ecosystem of your business? It's like pulling the thread on a sweater. We have to make sure that every piece cohesively works together. So we don't just haphazardly make changes for the sake of cost. We're looking at the total impact on the business. And then, to my earlier point, we're here through the entire process. We make sure that the transition is smooth for you, that you don't leverage unduly your internal resources. You can focus on your core business. And then we're staying on with you as a long-term consultant to make sure that you're getting the service that you need from those carriers. And if you're not, we help you go find another one and help you replace them. Right? Things change over time. We know that today's solution might not always be perfect tomorrow. And so we're constantly staying in touch with you, making sure that you're ahead of the game. I promised to keep the whole session today to under 30 minutes. So I think now is a good time just to open it up to questions. Please feel free to use the chat window, and you can type in whatever questions you may have for us, and I'll be happy to get to those. I do have my first question coming in. So this question is from Nicole. Nicole says, what does the typical timeline to conduct an assessment look like? That's a good question. It really depends on the engagement, but from end to end, from the time that we sign the NDA with you and obtain the contracts and invoices, the typical turnaround before we start producing back to you results is a week to 10 days. The carriers work with us very quickly. We've got dynamic portals into their systems. We can very quickly see on that first day whether there's going to be savings opportunities for you, and then we go to work with them and we know what competitive levers to pull. So figure a week to 10 days before we start producing back some real results to you. Now, the entirety of the process, from quoting to making decisions and implementation and contract, that's probably going to expand more into the 30-day time frame, but there are immediate steps that we can take and some stop gaps that we can put in place for you to stop hemorrhaging where maybe you are today. Second question comes in, what telecom services do you feel are the most critical for cost savings? So this in today's market, I think, is pretty straightforward. I see today that if you have a wide area network, if you have multiple locations and you're connecting them over a wide area network, leveraging SD-WAN is the most prolific saver in the marketplace today. There's pundits that say that the death of MPLS is at our doorstep, and while I don't necessarily entirely agree with that from an immediate term, SD-WAN has certainly put that industry back on its heels from a pricing standpoint, and it's helping clients leverage whatever connectivity is available to them at their given locations, not to mention cost savings. Now, couple SD-WAN, the second part of the answer is couple SD-WAN with unified communications as a service. If you have a traditional PBX in place today, we should definitely be talking about getting you to some cloud-based platform. But even if you're utilizing some voice over IP service, there are competitive entrants and there are competitive offerings. Remember that earlier point about an ever-changing landscape. The offers that are coming to us today, in particular over the last 30 days, are staggering, even in comparison to what we saw a year and a half ago. So if you haven't looked at your telecommunications portfolio in the last year to 18 months, I can assure you things have changed dramatically. The pricing landscape is ultra aggressive, even on services as straightforward and simple as internet, where you may think, well, I only have one internet provider in my building, or 3 of my facilities are dominated by AT&T. The reality is there is fiber everywhere, and we can tap into that and provide competitive options, even if we have to leverage that incumbent provider just for the last mile connection. So let us go to work on your behalf. We would love to talk with you more. We're going to be following up. I don't see any more questions in the queue. We're going to be following up with an email to get your feedback, and we look forward to speaking with you directly. And please keep us in mind too for our next webinar as part of this series on May 15th, when we talk about Microsoft Teams. We're calling it Microsoft Teams Coffee Talk with PSM. And this is another way that we're seeing remote workforces, particularly in this work environment that we're in now, leverage technology to not only become more efficient and bring together a very now disparate workforce, but also to drive cost out of the business. There's some tremendous savings opportunities therein. We're experts in that space as a Microsoft Gold partner, and we look forward to sharing those insights with you on our next webinar on May 15th. I'll wait just another minute here in case there are any other questions. Feel free to type them into the chat window. All right, well, it looks like we don't have any further questions, so I'm going to give you back 8.5 minutes of your day. I appreciate, again, you spending time with us and look forward to talking with you again. Thanks so much.